Mike Tyson, that name that is synonymous with boxing, along with the likes of Muhammad Ali. Mild boxing coach and now professional boxer, even based his own fighting style on the legend. At the young age of 20 years old, he became the youngest heavyweight boxing champion in history. This is the once-in-a-lifetime story of a man stepping into legendary status. But early on in Mike's life, this didn't seem like it was something that was destined to happen. Once upon a time, he was a scared kid getting bullied and beaten in Brownsville, Brooklyn. And when he reached 7 years old, he actually stopped going to school altogether because of how bad the bullying got. Mike had, and still to this day, collects pigeons. One day, someone in his neighborhood grabbed one of his pigeons and in front of Mike, ripped his head off and killed it. And up until this point, Mike was actually quite a peaceful kid. So with the bully that killed his pigeon, he beat him within an inch of his life. And this was the first time that Mike Tyson had probably had a fight with someone. So Mike got into a lot of trouble when he was younger, as expected. He got sent to a reformatory. One of the counselors at the reformatory ended up being an ex-professional boxer. Even though Mike Tyson was a juvenile, this counselor saw a lot of promise in Mike and decided to do a few sparring sessions with him. And after this point, this is where Mike got introduced to one of the most legendary boxing trainers of all time, Cus D'Amato. After seeing Tyson box ex-professional boxer Bobby Stewart, his words to Bobby were, "That's the heavyweight champion of the world." And this father figure trained Tyson religiously into becoming a devastating heavyweight boxer. I don't think there will be another Mike Tyson, an aspiring athlete that gets mentored and effectively brainwashed into becoming a world-class heavyweight knockout artist. His story is so unique, it's lightning in a bottle. However, having read his biography, The Undisputed Truth, there are a few things worth picking up upon. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Chris. I'm a self-development YouTuber. And please, if you like this video, like, comment, and please click that sexy little subscribe button. You know you want to. Here are a few life lessons that I've learned from reading his biography. Now, the first one is, no matter what your situation is or your environment, get to work. On average, he would spend 50 to 60 hours a week training. In the mornings, he would get up at 4 AM and go for a 3 to 5 mile run. At 12, he'd do 10 to 12 rounds of sparring, pad work, speed, and slick bag circuits. Later in the afternoon, at 3 PM, he would do some more pad work, heavy bag circuits, shadow boxing, skipping rope, and calisthenics. Then at 5 PM, he would do a finishing calisthenics workout of 2,000 air squats, 500 push-ups, 2,500 sit-ups, 500 bench dips, 500 barbell shrugs, and more just to finish off. Now, I think what is most interesting about this is the commitment to become world-class in something. The hours you put in, the training you must do. And I think what's even most interesting is that even to achieve some form of success, you don't have to do all of those things. You just have to do most of them consistently. And even when he was sentenced to prison for 3 years, he was still finding ways to keep himself fit in his prison cell. Doing press-ups, jogging on the spot, doing air squats, shadow boxing. It just means that no matter what your situation is, you can still keep yourself going. And for my next principle, it's to find your inner monster. Mike Tyson was one of those guys that terrified people in and outside of the ring. A lot of the time, it was because he represented a lack of self-control, but also a general lack of fear. In my personal opinion, I think people are afraid of a lot of things nowadays. If I'm walking down the pavement and I make eye contact with someone, they 9 times out of 10 will look down across the street or down at their phone. And I've spoken about this a little bit before, but in terms of Carl Jung's definition of the shadow, that is essentially the combination of your own weaknesses and shortcomings. In short, they are unattractive things that you dislike, but they conflict with the positive things that are going on in your life. Tyson's story is a cautionary tale about abuse of all vices. Tyson refuses to shy away from his fondness for illegal substances and seedy encounters with women. And what it shows is that if attaining a certain goal does not sustain you, it can be very easy to start doing the wrong things. Everyone has a bad side to them, but it's by confronting your inner monster, that's how you can realize what your true strengths actually are. And moving on to our next principle, this is the power of mindset. Now, to be honest, the word mindset gets thrown around like a sausage down a hallway most of the time. But something that's quite interesting is what Cus once said to Tyson. So he said, "If you don't have a spiritual warrior in you, you'll never be a fighter. I don't care how big or how strong you are." And this is a very good point. I've seen smaller opponents take on bigger opponents, not because of the size of the dog, but the size of the dog in the fight. And this is not just exclusive to fighting and boxing, but the crossover is you have to be willing to get stuck in. And we all have this, where we get intimidated by superficial advantages or disadvantages that keep making us rethink our game plan. And Mike Tyson's coach also had something quite interesting to say in regards to a fighter's mindset before a match. Fatigue in the ring is 90% psychological. It's just the excuse of a man who wants to quit. The night before a fight, you won't sleep. Don't worry, the other guy didn't either. You'll go to the weigh-in, he'll look much bigger than you and calmer like ice, but he's burning up with fear inside. And what's true in boxing is very, very true in life. And that is our brains are our worst enemies. Like most of the time when we imagine a worst case scenario, it never exists. But we continually waste mental energy thinking about it because we don't want to be surprised. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in a bar and it's been like a really attractive girl that is there. You're thinking, okay, I'm gonna go up and talk to her. But then you have all these negative self-limiting beliefs in your head, which are like, wow, she's probably got a boyfriend, she's probably not interested in me. And then you somehow talk yourself out of speaking to that girl. Then what might have happened is that you might have actually got her number, you might have actually been someone that she would have been into. But if you realize what the rewards are from being that little bit courageous in the middle of uncertainty, you'll come to realize that risk is 100% worth taking. And moving on to my final life lesson about Mike Tyson, this is falling in love with the hard stuff. I've always say that hard work never gets romanticized quite like it does in boxing. In the space of a couple months, a scrawny kid could become toned and athletically built. I don't know if you've ever been in a job that you've hated initially, but then as you've become more skilled and knowledgeable in the role, you've actually decided to have a bit of a passion for it. The same is true of the training that you do as a boxer. Nothing feels good when you're comfortable. If that becomes your go-to across a long period of time, your well-being is going to be in a lot of trouble. Whenever I felt comfortable and then for some reason I've decided to push myself to my limits at a gym session, of course during the session you might feel like hell and maybe you have that leftover tiredness when you wake up the next day. But that feeling of pride and knowing that you can do so much more than you thought you could, there's nothing that replaces that. Knowing that is potentially endless in the ways that you can improve yourself. Even if they are small, it is such a valuable thing for your sense of well-being. And this is quite a weird boast. This is like when I broke my PB for one arm press up, which actually for each arm, it's around 15. I remember the time I couldn't even do one. It just goes to show what you can do if you push yourself just that little bit and just go, do you know what, why not just at least try it? One tip that Cuss gave was that you have to detach yourself from yourself. You have to stop your emotional thinking and still maintain control. No matter how tired you are, in pain you aren't listening to those sensations. Now looking back on Mike Tyson, obviously his current reputation is a bit questionable, but he's got a lot of motivational and inspiring stories across his life. Obviously there's a lot of controversy, there's a lot of vice, but his commitment to becoming world-class in a skill is very admirable. And that is something that we can all take away from him. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like that, comment, like and subscribe, and I'm sure I'll see you guys soon. Onwards and upwards, take care.